Hello my friends, and welcome back to another video. In this particular video we are going to be talking about brown algae, of course, and that is something that pretty much every fish keeper will have encountered. So if your tank has gone brown and is looking as horrible as this one is right now, you're probably in a little bit of a worry, a little bit of a despair as to what you've done wrong and how can you get rid of this horrible brown algae. Well, I'm going to let you know exactly what to do in this video and why and how this brown algae appears in your fish tank. So in terms of livestock, I've had this going with plants from day one, and then after a week I have added some shrimps to it. So this is the third week, and since doing those two things and filling it up, the aquarium has been fine up until the last couple of days, and now my fish tank has gone brown. Now this is something that I was expecting to happen, but it can be really disconcerting. If you're new to fish keeping, or you've had a really good run up till now, and suddenly your tank's gone brown, it can be a bit horrific. So let's go through what exactly is happening and how you can prevent and or stop this from happening. So the first thing to realise is this brownness is not actually an algae, it's a diatom. Although they look very similar, they're completely different kinds of organisms, but we can treat them in a very similar way that we would do to treating algae. Now the reason that the algae appeared in this particular tank is the fact that this aquarium is still cycling. It's still a new cycling aquarium, and just for instance, when you put stuff into a fish tank, there's nothing living on it that can survive in the aquatic world. So you put in your dry rocks, you put in everything dry, and it's going to take a while before the good biofilms and the good ecological things start to happen within this fish tank. And really you've got to imagine that this colonization of these brown algae is essentially the first stage to your aquarium becoming live and becoming a good healthy ecosystem with a full range of organisms. Now many of these organisms colonize a new aquarium in a kind of sequence. So you'll probably find that when you set up your aquarium initially, it may have gone a little bit cloudy, and that's basically the first sequence where all the bacteria moves into the aquarium. The aquarium goes cloudy, it's a bit of a bloom of bacteria, and that normally happens within the first week or so, and then it kind of peters out and goes clear, and then what happens is it goes brown, and that's exactly what has happened in this aquarium. So the first thing to realise is if it's a new fish tank you've set up, then it going brown is kind of a normal thing that's going to happen. It's a natural thing that's going to happen. But what we don't want to happen is for this brownness to linger too long. So how do you get away from having this diatom algae, and how do you stop it from coming back, and how do you deal with it while you still have it? The first thing is it's really easy to clean. I wouldn't really suggest cleaning it if it's on your rock work or if it's on your ornaments. The best thing to do is leave it on there. You can brush it away, but don't take it out and scrub it, because you're resetting that ornament or rock back to being sterile, and all that will happen is the diatoms will just grow back. If it's on your glass though, feel free to wipe it off the glass. Keep the glass as clean as you like. I like to keep it nice and clean so I can see into the aquarium and see the progress of what's going on. So the first thing is cleaning is something that you can do, but limit it to just cleaning the glass or a very slight brush over just for aesthetic reasons. The second thing we can do is, as long as your water quality at this point is okay, you've got no ammonia, you've got no nitrite, then you can try adding something that's going to graze on the diatoms. And there are quite a few fish that will graze on diatoms happily. The first one, if you got a nano tank, so if your tank's like this sort of size, 30 litres, then you can add Otocinclus. Now they are very good at eating diatom algae. They tend to clear it up quite well, and it just helps to keep the appearance of your aquarium nice within those first couple of weeks to months. If you've got a bigger aquarium, you can add larger things like Ancistrus, or you can even add some snails like Nerite snails. They're very good at eating this diatom algae as well. Another thing that you might want to look at is your water quality. So diatoms bloom in new aquariums, but they also bloom even more if your water quality to begin with is quite poor. So they are very similar to how algae works. They feed off nitrates, they feed off phosphates, but they also use silicate out of the water so that they can build their hard shells. So if your water quality is full of those three things, then you'll probably suffer a lot worse than if they weren't so high. So it's just one of these things that you might have to then replace some tap water with RO just to bring your levels back into where they should be. But that's something you can only find out really by getting your water tested or testing your water yourself. Another thing you might want to look at, especially if you're using plants like this, is the quality of the lighting. So I think this light in particular may be contributing to the fact that the diatoms are out competing the plants in this aquarium, because I don't quite think it's bringing out enough light to let these plants grow fast enough to outcompete the diatoms, because that's the idea of the plants, is that they grow faster, use up a lot of the nutrients that the diatoms and the other algae would like, and they outcompete it in that way. So you might want to look at that and look at your lighting, see if it's actually good enough for growing plants. Now this light will be good enough later on down the line when it's an established aquarium, but what I might do just to give the plants a bit of a boost is put a brighter light on here initially and just get the plants more established, let them grow, and they will outcompete naturally the diatoms. Other things we can do to limit the growth and spread of diatoms, the brown algae within aquariums, is increase water movement, because diatoms aren't the best swimmers. They tend to get blown around from place to place, but they also don't tend to like to settle on surfaces that have decent flow. So again, this aquarium has a relatively low flow, and that might contribute to why there are more diatoms in here than I would expect if I set up a new aquarium with really powerful filtration and really fast flow. So that's something you can try, is increasing your flow, increase your filtration, possibly add power heads or something along those lines, just to get that water circulating. Obviously in small nano aquariums like this, I don't want that much flow in here, so it's something I'm going to have to deal with in other ways. Generally though, this is very generally speaking, diatoms tend to happen in a bloom, so they're a bit of a boom and bust organism when it comes to fish tanks. Being that this aquarium is 3 weeks old and it's a new aquarium with limited light and limited flow, it's something that I was expecting to happen, and it's something that I know will go away on its own. In general, 90% of the time, this kind of thing just clears up on its own. The diatoms will colonize areas which they like these rocks and the plant leaves, but they will actually then burn out eventually. The nutrients that they like will be used up by other things such as the plants, and they'll also be outcompeted by other organisms. So once the green algae start to colonize the rocks, the diatoms won't tend to grow on them so often, and eventually in a month or so there probably won't be any more diatoms in this aquarium, and I'll be trying to fight the other types of algae, the green dot algae and the hair algae and things like that. When it comes to brown algae, especially if it's in a new aquarium, your best bet is just to look at your water quality, look at your filtration, look at your lighting, make sure everything is within a decent tolerance and as it should be. And if it's still happening and you're getting this brown algae in your aquarium, the best advice to really follow, at least for the first month or so, is just to wait and let your aquarium mature a little bit longer, and then take it from there, because as I said, most of the time this brown algae will just disappear and burn itself out. Now brown algae in itself isn't actually harmful to anything other than looking really unsightly and kind of ruining your aquascape for a small amount of time. It doesn't do any harm. Even though it's covering the plants, it won't potentially kill them. It will just limit their light and limit their growth for the small period of time that it is there. In terms of livestock as well, it's not going to harm any of your fish. Even if you have fish that eat diatoms, it's not going to poison them and it's not going to hurt them in any way. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it's answered a few questions you have about brown algae. If you like this video, please remember to leave a like. Equally, if you dislike it, feel free to dislike it, because it lets me know how you felt about the content. However, if you did like it, please consider also subscribing to my channel and enabling the bell, because it gives you notifications of when I upload new content. So thank you very much for watching, and happy fish keeping.